Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Skåne here in the south of Sweden, and we're going to return to one of my favourite Swedish craft breweries. And these guys of course are well known for being the first solely sour beer brewery to open up here in Sweden. So for this review we are going to head to Landskrona and we're having a taste of another beer from Brekeriet. This one is the Leaf Drop and they're describing it as a fruity and rustic Saison fermented with Brettanomyces yeast. And this one comes in at 6% ABV. This one was released of course through the Små Partiers on the 4th of October 2019 through Systembolaget, and hopefully this is another nice beer. When I was actually in Systembolaget picking this one up, I noticed that there are a good few other Brekeriet beers that I haven't tried yet, so I'll need to pick up a few of those and try and review them for you over the coming weeks, because I always like trying new stuff from this brewery. There was one that caught my eye called Mimosa, so that will probably be the next one that you see after this. But very much looking forward to trying this one. Hopefully it's another good beer, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brekeriet before. No doubt there will be some more at some point in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brekeriet then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, Brekeriet were originally based in Djurslev, just outside of Malmö, but they're now based a little bit further north in Landskrona. But the company was founded back in 2011 by the three Ek brothers. This is Fredrik, Christian and Andre, and it's a specialist brewery in wild beers using Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus. But they were the first brewery in Sweden to do this, and as far as I know, they are the only brewery in Sweden that are still 100% dedicated to the brewing of sour beers. There are other breweries such as Temple and Mälardalens and Örebro Brewhus, and there's quite a few other breweries will do sours as well. Stigbergets are starting to do them too, and of course Dugas Brekeriet are a very good sour brewery as well. But as far as I know, Brekeriet are the only brewery that are 100% dedicated to sour beers in Sweden at the moment. Correct me on that in the comments section below if I'm wrong. But the original brewery was based in the old brewhouse in Djurslev, which was actually a share brewery for local farmers once upon a time. But they brewed their first beers there in 2012, and this brewery had a very modest production of only 500 litres per brew, and this gave them a yearly capacity of 38,000 litres. But as of 2015 they've now got a new brewery in Landskrona that can produce 20 hectolitres per brew, and they now have a fermentation capacity of around 80 hectolitres of beer as well. For a long time they were producing their Wild Bunch beers continuously in Landskrona, but they brewed their Sour Patch and one-off beers in Djurslev for a period of time, but I believe all the production has now moved solely to Landskrona. But in 2014 this brewery actually caused a little bit of a stir, because they withdrew completely from Systembolaget, citing bureaucracy and things like that, because it used to take a hell of, I think it still does take a hell of a lot of paperwork to get into Systembolaget, and it was very difficult. So for quite a period of time actually you would have had to go, if you were living in Skåne like I am, you would have had to go over to Copenhagen to get a hold of these Brekeriet beers though. But they returned, their beers returned to Systembolaget in 2016 thankfully, and they've got a good range available throughout Sweden now, and Systembolaget do seem to have relaxed their rules a little bit and made it a bit easier for the little Swedish craft breweries to access the market. Thankfully they do seem to be listening to what businesses are asking them to do, and that's good, because it is a state-owned enterprise, and really the state as far as it can should support small and medium-sized businesses in my opinion. But yeah, a very good brewery this one. Favourite beers from these guys, Wrapped in Red, Purple Rain was very good. Both of those are really nice. The Swedish Ninja is probably one of my favourite ones that I've had as well. Sour and Salt, if I remember the name correctly, was also very good. The beers all tend to be a very high standard in my opinion, but there's just obviously, it's just down to kind of personal preference I think, what ones you enjoy. Pretty much if you pick up a beer from these guys you are going to get something that is of pretty damn good quality, I have to say. So if you're interested in sour beers, Brekeriet are a brewery that you definitely want to check out of course. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Brekeriet Brekeriet for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And as always, you can check out their Untappd and Rate Beer pages to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So there's just a little look at the artwork for you there. You can see the nice oak leaf with its kind of distinctive curves on it there behind. I like that little piece of artwork. That was one of my units in like primary 7 at school, and I still can identify a good number of trees from that. But oddly enough, when I went to university and had to do biology, I hated plants, just couldn't stand it. But yeah, as you can see, there is the Brekeriet bottle cap on this one. It says on the back here, this one is part of the Wild Bunch series. Leaf Drop is part of our collection of beers known as the Wild Bunch, fermented with Brettanomyces and Saccharomyces yeast strains. That's kind of interesting actually. I don't know if Saccharomyces is the one that can give you really bad infections and things like that. So that's an interesting point to make, because I know that there's Brettanomyces, Lactobacillus. I haven't heard of Saccharomyces before actually. I'll need to look that up for the next beer that I have from these guys and that uses that. But there is one of these wild yeast strains that can be really bad for you to use. It's very difficult to work with. I don't know if it is that one, but kudos to them if they are working with that. But another nice looking beer, this one. Nothing new about the artwork if you like, but let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. A 6% fruity Saison apparently, so we'll get it out and into the glass. As I mentioned to you earlier, this beer was released on the 4th of October 2019 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. There we go. So yeah, as you can see in terms of colour, this one is a little bit darker than what you would normally find for a Saison. In my experience, Saisons do tend to be a little bit brighter than this, so bear that in mind when you try this beer. When you open the beer up, incidentally, you do get a nice little helping of a kind of red fruity note coming out of this one, almost like figgy or raisiny or something like that. Definitely a bit of a red fruity quality coming out of the glass there. But if I hold this one up to the light, it's almost like a kind of blood orangey amber colour, this one. Kind of what you would expect perhaps from like a double West Coast IPA or just a regular West Coast IPA. It's not too far off the colours that you would expect of that. So a little bit darker than a Saison in my experience. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. You could see the head was about a quarter finger and it was a kind of creamy coloured layer, but it's faded away just to be a very kind of thin foamy thing at the moment. So just bear that in mind when you have a look at this beer. But yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get. Nothing overly surprising about this beer other than its colour being a little bit darker than normal. So let's have a look at it then. Oh, yeah, that smells kind of interesting actually. It really has that sort of farmhousey quality to it. I mean, underneath this one you can smell that big, doughy, bready, yeasty quality, but it's got that kind of woody, herbally, kind of farmhousey note to it. It really does. Almost like you get out of some of these New England IPAs actually. That smells pretty good, I have to say. Thumbs up to Brekeriet for the aroma on this one. It's come out very, very nicely. So yeah, definitely a good little woody presence to this one. Some nice bready qualities. It's a little bit kind of brown bready to be honest with you, but you can smell the big doughy yeasty notes in there too. It comes across as almost a little bit spicy. To me, I just want to say there's a little bit of a pepperiness or something to it. Maybe it's more like a kind of coriander or something, but I don't think it's quite as sweet as coriander. But there is definitely some kind of spicy quality to this one as well. Not really any sweetness to it, to be honest. Mainly bready, doughy, a little bit spicy. It's a kind of vegetal spice, to be honest with you, and some kind of interesting woody notes as well. So I do quite like how this one kind of comes across. Definitely a little bit of a vegetal character. And the other thing that has come into mind with this one when I smell it is that it has a little bit of an almost kind of vinous quality to it. This one, almost like it's been white wine barrel aged or something like that. It has just a little bit of that almost vinous aroma to it, to be honest. That's kind of interesting. I really like how that goes together actually. It's one of these aromas that when you smell it, you think, oh, it's not too complex. But then when you actually start to get into it and it opens up a little bit, you start to get other things out of it, which is really nice. On the hoppy side of things then, definitely a little touch of earthiness to this one. Some grassy and floral notes as well. So yeah, I don't know if they would have used Belgian hops in this. The Saison, of course, is the original Belgian farmer's ale rather than anything else, not not the Belgian vermin ale. Be a waste of good beer that, giving it to rats or whatever. But yeah, it's the hoppy notes on this one. It does have a little touch of earthiness, some kind of herbal qualities as well, a little bit of a floral and grassy thing, and that's kind of what you would expect from this style, to be honest. On the fruity side of it, as I said, when you open this beer up, you'll get a little bit of a kind of raisiny sharpness coming out of it, but it's also quite juicy at the same time. When you actually go and smell the beer, you can pick out some of these nice appley peary esters. There's a little bit of that lemon citricy tartness as well, which is interesting. Yeah, you can definitely pick that out of this with this beer as well. There is that lemony tartness. I wonder if it's the Saccharomyces that's making it smell a little bit different. But yeah, a little bit of a lemon tartness and some kind of peary and appley esters. I'm not getting much in the way of the red fruits that I was talking about before. There maybe is just a little bit of a kind of figgy note to it, but you have to really look for it, to be honest. It's not immediately obvious. It was just something that came to mind when I opened up the bottle. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. That's always half the experience when it comes to beers, and you can get some really interesting things out of the sour beers actually. But let's have a taste of it then and see how it goes. There's a wee bit of sediment there, but we always want just a little bit of that in these sour beers. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and just see how we get on. This one is the Leaf Drop, released on the 4th of October 2019 through Systembolaget from Brekeriet Sour Beer Brewery in Landskrona here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slanje, skål. It's kind of interesting that this one isn't really that sour, to be honest with you. Yeah, this beer, it really isn't. It's big and bready, which is kind of, and doughy, which is what you would expect from one of the from a Saison basically. But it's not sour in the way that you would normally expect from a Brekeriet beer. So it's interesting that it's a change. It's basically a change of pace from these guys. There is something in my head that's wondering if this is how the beer is intended, or has there been a little bit of an issue with it? Because I did notice there was quite a bit of sedimentation in this one, and I'm not sure how how much there kind of should be with this. But it does look a little bit kind of. That is the thing. If it is a little bit darker than that, it is kind of off in colour, to be honest. So I'm not sure about that. I'll need to check that after the video. But let's continue with the tasting for the moment, anyway. But yeah, with this beer then, you can pick it over the middle of your palate. You definitely get this nice sort of woody base, and it just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you start to get the thicker, doughy, kind of bready notes in there. So I mean, it does have that kind of bready quality that you would expect, that bready, doughy kind of quality that you would expect of a Saison, and it really does smell like a Saison actually. I don't know if this is just a change of pace or exactly what this is, but it does not have any sourness to it, and for me, I'm almost freaking out, because that's what Brekeriet are kind of known for, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, as I say, colour's a bit unusual for a Saison, I think, and it's not sour, so I don't know if there's maybe there has been something gone wrong with this beer. I'll need to check afterwards. Like I say, I might edit and just add on a little thing at the end actually. But yeah, middle of your palate, the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, definitely a little bit of a kind of woody quality in there. The further that you go into the aftertaste as well, the middle of your palate will dry out a little bit and become a bit more kind of grainy and farmhousey and funky and things like that. So it does have a kind of big, it's almost like a kind of brown bready quality just sitting on top of the kind of, yeasty notes there, which is interesting, or on top of the woody notes rather, so you can get that big kind of bready quality there. Perhaps in the centre of the palate there's a teeny little bit of a biscuity sweetness, but that's very, 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 very minimal. As I say, the further you go into the aftertaste is you're going to get more of a kind of you're going to get more of a kind of smoothness out of this one, a more of a smooth kind of woody quality in there. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate there is a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it's definitely got a little bit of a kind of herbal quality. At the front corners of the palate, perhaps just a little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity. Then round the front corner, the front curve of the palate, it's just that little bit lighter and grassy, I would say. So behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. One of the other things I should say about this is that I noticed it came across as being a little bit sort of spicy in the a little bit spicy in the aroma. You can pick out a little bit of that in the you can pick out a little bit of that almost coriander-y type thing in the middle of the palate too, but it's not really as present as you would think it would be, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's look at the fruity side of things. So yeah, fruity side of things then, as I always say, behind the front curve of the palate you'll get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And for me, this one, when you take it in, there is a little bit of a very slightly figgy kind of thing, but the further you go into the aftertaste, it does become a little bit more kind of it's definitely a little bit more appley and peary and things like that. That's mainly where the kind of fruity side of this beer is lying, but behind the front curve of the tongue there is almost this little bit of a kind of earthy, grainy, farmhousey type thing to this one. So yeah, in terms of the flavour profile, I'm really not kind of sure what to make of this. This is not like any other Brekeriet beer that I've had before. It's not even sour in the slightest, which is kind of what you would expect from Brekeriet, especially the Wild Bunch beers. So that's an interesting point to make about this, and you know, I don't think it would be infected or anything like this, because these guys are always very, very good at you know, at getting at maintaining the quality of their beer. So this would be very, very unusual. And you know, it's Saccharomyces. As I say, this is the first time I've come across that. So I don't know. This one maybe works in a bit of a different way actually in terms of the flavours that it gives you in the beer. So I'm really not sure whether this is the intended flavour of the beer should be, or whether something has kind of gone wrong either when or probably when this beer's been conditioned by systembolaget, because in fairness there is a good little bit of sediment to this, and you know, I don't think, you know, that's one of the problems is Brekeriet hold on to the beers for a pretty long time, and sometimes they're not conditioned at the right temperature, and you can get stuff like this happening, to be honest. So I'm not sure what exactly to make about this beer. We'll need to kind of think about that a little bit. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, I would say that this beer is kind of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel leans towards the wet side of things, but there is a bit of an oily presence to it. Malt base is, pardon me, is quite smooth. Little tiny bit of sweetness there and a little bit of spice the further you go into the aftertaste as well. There is a little bit of hoppy bitterness to this one, but I think you'd be lucky to get beyond 25-30 IBUs with this beer. There is a little bit of fruitiness as well, but the weird thing about this is that it's a Brekeriet beer and it doesn't really have any you know, it doesn't really have any sourness to it, which is not what you would expect at all. So yeah, kind of unusual, this one, I would say, but overall this one isn't quite what I would normally expect from Brekeriet, and I'm a bit curious as to whether it's intended or not. So we'll just need to leave it at that for this one. So yeah, what I would say then is there are better beers out there from Brekeriet, for example, Sour and Salt. What else? You know, Wrapped in Red, Purple Rain. There's things like this out there. This one, I'm not sure if it is meant to be a little bit. It says it's rustic, but I mean, A Saison to me should always be a little bit brighter and kind of smoother and sweeter than this, and of course you do expect a little bit of that sour quality in there, and there's just none of it in this beer. So to be honest, compared to some of the other Brekeriet beers that I've come across, if this one is intended this way, it is a little bit disappointing. If it's infected, then Systembolaget need to look at how they're conditioning these beers actually, because that is very unusual actually. If it is Brekeriet, because you always usually get very good quality beers out of these ones, and you know, this one, I bought this in Hansa in Malmö, which is very close to the brewery, so I don't think they would have, it wouldn't have been taken to Stockholm and brought back or anything like this. I don't think they would do that. But overall, an interesting one this, but not quite the same quality as some of the other ones that I've had from Brekeriet over the years. So yeah, hopefully the next one that I have from these guys is a little bit better than this. As I say, I'll check whether this one might have been infected or not. Usually you can tell from the colour and things, so I'll have a little look on Untappd and things after. If it is, I'll put a little message after this, but otherwise, pardon me, that'll be it for this review. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. As always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brekeriet as well, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys in the fairly near future. This one is the Leaf Drop, a Saison beer, released on the 4th of October 2019 through the Small Partiers here in Sweden, coming in at 6% ABV. A little bit unusual compared to the other ones that we've had from Brekeriet before, I would say. But let's leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.